Welcome back to Classic Rides. Well, our Airstream is over 30 years old, and some of our parts are just worn out. And like any residential home project, sometimes there's just some work to be done. So we're going to start with our windows. This is a window we've taken out of the trailer, and obviously the weather strip is shot. The weather strip on our access doors is identical to the weather strip on our windows, so that's good news for us. Due to the popularity of Airstream, the weather seal is still being made, so we've got an exact replacement for our windows and our access doors, so that's really good for us. Old weather stripping should be fairly easy to remove using a stiff scraper. We've got some adhesive removers, which is just a aggressive solvent. Use the adhesive remover to get the remaining pieces of old weather strip off. A scuffing pad will do the work of cleaning the crevices. With the seal removed, use an aluminum polish with an abrasive pad on areas that are pitted and oxidized. Finish cleaning the frame using a fine steel wool pad. And that makes it look like it's just come off the assembly line. It looks like it's brand new. We've got our old adhesive off. Our flange area is cleaned. We're ready for some new weather strip. This is just a weather strip adhesive. It comes in different colors. Personally, I like the black because our weather strip is black, and it just sort of melds in if we over apply, and you don't see that yellow edge. Wipe the adhesive lightly with a finger to spread it out. We'll let that sit and tack up while we put adhesive on our weather strip. It has to go on both surfaces. First, find the seat or mating surface of the new weather strip by comparing it to the old seal on the access door. We know now that this is our outside edge. Apply the weather strip adhesive as before, spreading it out using a finger. It helps to have a large tabletop area to work on so you don't end up getting glue all over your place. Good, so our adhesive is tacked up on both surfaces. We're ready to proceed. What I'm going to do is just wrap this around without making contact. Like we said before, keeping in mind where our seam is going to be. This is the bottom of our window. This is where we're going to start. It's important that the seam is on the bottom of the window so water doesn't leak in at the top. Simply press the weather strip into place, making sure to get a good surface contact as you go. Now this is important. When you come to a corner, don't stretch your seal. If anything, force it into the corner and give yourself some extra wiggle room. If you stretch your seal, it's under tension. You don't want that. It could possibly pull loose as it shrinks just naturally. We've overcut our weather strip so we have lots of room to work with and can make a nice tight seam. Now, it's pretty obvious we've overcut our piece. The reason for this is that you don't want to underestimate the length so that you have to pull it and create problems before they start. So we've overcut, given ourselves lots of room to work with. We'll place our adhesive right up to the point to where we know our seam is. Then we carefully cut with a sharp blade. Single-edge razor blade works good for this. I make my cut. Butt my ends together. And that takes care of installation. You want to let your adhesive set for a few hours before you actually install your window back into the trailer. There's one last thing we're going to do with our window before we install it. These brackets are steel. They're rusted, they're painted. We're going to clean these up a little bit and put a rust-prohibitive paint in there. I mask the area around the window bracket and use an abrasive pad to clean the scale off for better paint adhesion. Then I paint it with a rust-prohibitive silver paint. Looks like $1 million. Our old windows worked, but much of the hardware is worn and corroded. Let's take a look at some of the hardware for our windows. This is our window guide that sits in the trailer. That's the orientation that it sits in, and as you push out, it brings the window out as it goes up in the guides. It's a pretty simple operation, really, but the problem is that plastic, as it ages, gets brittle. Fortunately for us, we've got replacements for them. These are available brand new, they're cost-effective. It's just a good measure to go ahead and put these in place. The steel rods that hold the window in the guides can also be cleaned up using metal polish and an abrasive pad. A lot of our pieces are aluminum. Our handles for our window guides, they're aluminum. Now, these can be hand polished, but when you use a polisher like this or a tumbler, There's no work involved, there's no labor. And after a few hours, you get a result like this. This is a nice tool to have on hand. Keep track of your Allen screws and all your fasteners as well. Bag and label all the parts as you take them off. These window hardware pieces are hard to replace. The windows are pretty simple. The refinished window slips into the hinge at the top of the casing, and the support rods installed through the window guides at the side. And the latch and the handle hardware are reinstalled. With the window closed, the handle is turned and the latches lock into the brackets on the window. We'll be back to finish our window restoration, replace some exterior lights, and paint the interior storage bins when Classic Rides continues.